Thanks everyone for joining us today. I'm Sally Houlihan.
I'm Al Briganti. I've been in the parish for about 30 years.
I'm coming up on 4 in November.
I think that's probably why they picked the two of us to represent both sides.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to walk you through, we're going to kind of remind and inform everyone about what the discernment process is. We're going to tell you how we did it. And then we're going to share with you everything that we've learned. At the end, we're going to save your questions. At the end, we'll have time for questions and answers, and then we'll get you guys to church with more than enough time, hopefully. So what is discernment?
Well, it's a church word, discernment. I had really never heard of it until we started this process. But it's trying to figure out who you are and where you want to go. And also what Jesus has in mind for us as well. And so, given that, we initially thought it might be just a waste of time. Why don't we just pick up resumes and start looking at people? But it turned out it was very important to find out what we needed to look for and what we need as a parish.
And I think one thing that's been interesting that's come out of this is when we started, we didn't really understand where this was going to take us. We knew that we had about 4 months to get this process done. We knew it involved focus groups and conversations across the table. A lot of people said to us, as you've heard me say this, we'll go out and find another David. We needed to hear what David meant to you all, but what we've really learned is what this church meant to you. And it's been inspiring, it's been uplifting, it's been loving, it's been wonderful. Especially for Al and myself, we're a little bit in deeper, so we know everything that's been shared. But I think the conversations that have been had across the table have been beautiful. And I think what we've learned is that this parish is in a really good place, and it's more than one person, it's all of us. And I mean, I look around and it is standing room only in here. This is kind of mind-blowing, and they're still coming in. So it's a true testament to that this was a necessary and really valuable process, and we hope you enjoy what you're going to learn. And what we learn, what this whole process basically does is informs the next phase, which will be the recruitment process. We've been working it backwards. We knew that in October we were going to have a meeting with the bishop, and so we had 4 months to get our work done, which involved focus groups, analyzing the data, putting it all together in a report, giving it to the parish. We met with the vestry, we're meeting with individuals to kind of share any specific learnings that we've had. And so we had 4 months to get it done. And so we did not take the summer off, and we worked for it. And then it'll get passed off to the recruitment team. So how we did it was we did 5 nights of focus groups. We said, okay, we had our first meeting in June. Let's use the summer. Let's try and invite people out. We had over 220 people actually show up for focus groups. We had numerous other individual conversations. People emailed in responses. We estimate about 250 people. It's been overwhelming and awesome.
Well, that was a number we actually proposed to our diocesan consultant, and she said, well, you'll never get 250 people in the summer. So it's just a credit to this parish, and I think the power of the Holy Spirit behind all of this as well.
Mm-hmm. And what we've also tried to do is be very transparent and communicate what we're doing. So with the help of the communications team, we've been sending out weekly emails called Searchlight. They're supposed to come out on Tuesday. If some people aren't getting them, then email one of us and we'll make sure that you do. But those are going to continue into the next phase, and so it's the best way to stay up to date on what's going on. Going back to this. We also did a couple small group discussion groups. We did our own internal team. We did the youth. We did a group, and then we did ushers and P2P staff. I don't know why I singled that out, but...
Well, this is the size of, give you a sense of the various groups that we spoke to. It was our intention to make sure that we tried to include as many as possible, including people who just come here at Christmas and Easter. That was a tough group to find. Okay?
It was. But these aren't just one people from each. This isn't just one person from each of these groups. This is a lot of people. And when you talk to that many people in the parish, we really covered everything. And so we get to hear input about what's working, what's not, from all of these people with their individual perspectives. So how we did it, there were 4 questions so this whole process is kind of informed by the Bishop's Transition Management Office. And they came to us and said, okay, conduct focus groups. They gave us 4 questions to ask. We tweaked the first one. And so what we came up with is, why do you come to St. Luke's? What are St. Luke's strengths and which areas are we strongest? Which areas are the biggest challenge? And imagine that it's 2022 and our new rector has been with us for 3 years. Describe our parish's most exciting, energizing, significant accomplishments during those years. Those were just to try and get us to think about what St. Luke's means, to discern. Why do you come to St. Luke's? There were beautiful responses, truly.
I think, one of the things that's great about having focus groups as opposed to just conducting a survey like a Quinnipiac poll is that you really put flesh and blood on the answers. And the other thing which is really great is that somebody has an idea or a concern and that sparks another. That happened time and time again in our focus group sessions. What we're going to show you is just a few of the comments, hundreds and hundreds of comments that we recorded and that have gone into a data bank such as it is that we'll present to the bishop.
The data bank, which is Alan with it. Why do you come to St. Luke's? Because I've learned to believe more strongly in God every time that I come. As a newcomer to the town of Darien and a lifelong Episcopalian, I wanted to make a connection. Once that began, it rapidly became my spiritual home. I feel a sense of place, even when I can't be here. Incredible clergy, beautiful music program, the people in the pews, the role St. Luke's plays in the wider community, spiritual and intellectual stimulation. These capture it. These are the reasons that people come to St. Luke's. When we asked the question, it was basically to be an icebreaker. Why do you come? And people would ask, well, why do I come now, or why did I come? Each person got to come up with their own answer and formulate it for however it worked for them. And truly, they were beautiful. What we did, again, we said there was overlap between why come and the strengths. And so what we've done is we've tried to categorize those and the answers. And we have 8 that we're about to reveal. And they're weighted. I mean, the higher ones are the main ones, but collectively it all works together. And our first reason is the spiritual community of faith. This is a spiritual home for so many people. We heard the word welcoming over and over and over again. It's just people feel accepted. It's non-judgmental. They have deep friendships here. They love the intergenerational relationships. They feel it's an accepting place and a refuge place of calm. And
it's a place to find Jesus Christ and what he has for them in store for them in their lives. So a lot of this reflects the spiritual home and also a refuge and place of calm as well. Mm-hmm. And then the second most answer that we feel we heard was the preaching quality. Strong sermons were said over and over and over again. This isn't talking about David and Danny and Susan and Dawn opening up their lives, sharing relatable stories. When I did the youth focus group between 12 and 18-year-olds, I had 14 kids. At least half of them could recite 2 or 3 of Danny's sermons because it really meant something to them. That blew my mind away. They love hearing the stories about Danny running or anything, but it just that made them more human as opposed to someone just standing up. But then also the adults would feel like it's intellectually stimulating, it's relatable, it's about my life. So it's a really high bar that the church has set, and so one that the recruitment team is going to have to work on to recruit. Well, exactly. All of these comments, especially the challenges which we're coming up to, will be part of the Q&A they have with candidates. And the candidates will also be aware of this. This material will be posted on our website as well as other material. Mm-hmm. So they were inspirational, intellectual, and relatable. Our next one is the clergy. People love the clergy. Danny, David, Dawn, and Susan, I've only been here 4 years. They're all I ever knew. I thought that was just what happened at St. Luke's. But the synergy between them, I think a lot of people recognize. But it's also the history. In doing these focus groups, Walter Taylor came up, Jim Kowalski came up so many times. I think there's been a strong history of clergy here. So many of you all are longtime parishioners, so you have a much better handle on it than I do. But it's something that is required at St. Luke's, I think, and I think it's something that we want for the future. Clergy who are accessible, who are welcoming, and who are smart, brilliant, inspiring, and unique. Service opportunities. People love the outreach opportunities at St. Luke's. I think it's a source of great pride in this church. And I think as we delve deeper, because we spoke to a lot of the people who run these programs, St. Luke's is important to them as well. Okay, it's not only a source of volunteers and donations, but it's a source of strength. There's a lot of interchange between infrastructure and P2P. And then community suppers is also, between P2P and community suppers, is a way that this church opens its doors to the outside world. And I think it's as important for us as it is for the people who come here. And a lot of people express that kind of idea.
Mm-hmm. Al had a great group with P2P that I think he learned that it's a great relationship and one that's strong on campus. And that people, it's an opportunity for us to engage.
Yeah, because there had been, I guess a couple of years ago, a rumor that P2P wanted to leave. That is not on the horizon at all. They really, really love being on this campus. It's an important part of what they do.
And then in addition, mission trips, people appreciate those for the youth opportunities. I think they could, there's opportunities to grow further, as we'll talk about in our challenges, but that those are offered both for adults and, the Cuba trip that's coming up in November, those are on people's minds. And outreach, it's not just outreach, it's the different programs that are offered. I think people appreciate Laundry Love, and all the
Future Five.
Well, I'm not sure people know, but it's a great program. But Pacific House and the opportunities to get to do more. What's our next one? Oh, the Episcopalian traditions. A lot of people come because they were growing up. They grew up Episcopalian, but a lot of people have come over because they've just heard about St. Luke's and they were church shopping and they were exploring. But it's the liturgy that pulls people in. It's the music over and over again. We heard it's the music program. And the cool thing is that it's both the traditional and the contemporary offerings at Kaya. I think people really value the production of a service that St. Luke's does. It was a beautiful line that someone said in the focus groups, and it just stayed with me. It just stayed with me. And then with that is the strong lay leadership.
Yeah, which is very much the Episcopal tradition, is that you have not only a strong vestry, but strong leadership throughout the church in terms of outreach, community programs, stewardship, that kind of thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Kaya. People come exclusively for Kaya. We had so many people say, oh, I wouldn't go to St. Luke's if they didn't offer Kaya. I think, in going back to strong lay leadership, what I learned was that Kaya was started by one person, Laura Wilcox. I know it was a whole team, but it was the idea of one person. And now it's grown to become the second most attended service. We love this building. We've done everything. We started here in our discernment team, and we wanted to host you all because it's so beautiful. And I think Kaya, just everything that it offers, the flexible time, the come as you are, it's a huge asset for this church and not one to be overlooked in any way. The education, the offerings that are here, the adult pathways, the small group offerings, the doc series that was offered last year, the youth programming, and then the children. Our confirmation class had 42 kids last year, and it's a 3-year program for those who don't know, but that shows that there's strength there.
Well, we still have this. We did not do a scientific survey, but the reason why these are in this order is the number of responses for each one of these categories. So we heard overwhelmingly community of faith, then the preaching quality. It isn't that no one was talking about education, but these are all weighted categories. So you have some sense of importance as to what they are.
Mm-hmm. But not to be outdone. It's hard to, high is really important. So it's not that it's low on the thing. These are all really strong strengths for the church and reasons people come. And then the last one is people come because it's a beautiful place. Beautiful buildings, the flowers. They appreciate all that has gone into this, all that it takes to maintain, and that it's just gorgeous, The campus is, I've learned that it's 7 acres. We have, 3 clergy housing. We offer so much. This building is gorgeous, all of it. So these are the reasons why people come and also the strengths of the church. Now going into the challenges. The youth ministry is a little bit of a challenge for this church right now. I think in general we heard from several people who had either gone through the program and could look back and reflect based on where they see it as now, or have children who are going into it, or who are currently enrolled. And I think they acknowledge and kind of pointed out to us that our youth program needs a little bit of a boost right now.
I think if there was a consensus of all the topics that we discussed, this was the top of the list.
To give you all some numbers, we confirmed 42 kids last year. We only have about 20 who are active in the high school programs. So that's about a 50% drop off. And the challenges come up, you ask people to find challenges, right? So you start to get people to think hard about what's going on as a church. There's a consensus that we'd like to take better care of our own, to strengthen our pastoral care offerings, our healing ministries, our caring connections, improved intergenerational relationships and deeper connections between people. One of the things we're doing is we have to update the website, and what we've realized is that there's not even a care section on the website. And so we're going to add that in because we've realized that this maybe has fallen down a little bit, and we've talked to the clergy about that and raised it, but it's something that going forward, there's a desire for it to be stronger. And
I think it's interesting that in our focus groups, especially, the older parishioners were much interested in intergenerational relationships, trying to build that, and feeling they had a lot to offer and they wanted to meet these people as well.
I think so too. The need for more volunteers. You hear the quote from a lot of different focus groups. You have 80%, you have 20% of the parish doing 80% of the work. So there's a real opportunity to strengthen the number of people who are involved. Maybe that's through the newcomer program and offering a mentorship of new families who are coming in. It could be just inviting people who are on the periphery who maybe stopped coming to come in a little bit more. The brainstorming ideas that would come out of the focus groups are really encouraging. That this is an area that there's obviously a need for, along with stewardship.
As one idea was a mentorship program, especially with newcomer families, that would be able to lead them in the direction of activities, outreach activities they want to do, and also explain the importance of stewardship. We feel, especially in the next couple of years, because when you're without a rector for a while, a permanent rector for a while, stewardship goes down, but our needs never go down. We still have all the needs to maintain this plant and do what we're doing on outreach and other things as well.
Mm-hmm. And then the size of St. Luke's is always a challenge. Sometimes it's hard to know what's going on and it's difficult to get involved. And this is indicative of a lot of big organizations, big places. It's just hard to always keep people informed. And so that leads to our next one, which is improved communications. We heard people want a better idea of what's going on. Again, that's hard. Right now there's a weekly email that's emailed out on Thursdays that has everything, but people sometimes miss it or they aren't trained to read it. Maybe there's more opportunities. Maybe you start to direct people to a stronger website, or maybe there's Twittering or a blog, who knows, but the next rector probably needs to have some sort of handle on technology.
And it costs money. So if you want to have a real vibrant website, you may have to have staff devoted to that kind of thing. So it relates back to stewardship. Overwhelmingly, especially among older members of the church, was the return of a printed directory. Thank you. We knew we'd get an applause line. I hope the vestry's hearing.
And then, in addition to improved communications outreach, there was a desire to better know what our programs are, how to get involved, how many parishioners are there, how do you approach outreach with new programs. We've talked to Fred Elliott, who runs that, along with the committee members, and I think there's a desire, but it's going to need to be a focus of the new rector, or at least something that's been identified as a problem, or a challenge, I say. And then you also have the pressures from outside, busy congregation, commitments on the weekends, drop-off summer attendance. So all of those are the spoken challenges that St. Luke's has. And one thing about the focus groups, in doing them, we did over 20 groups. we could have probably stopped after the first group. All the other groups, they were so unique and the conversations were beautiful, but the same themes came out of almost every single group. So that shows you that the data did not take us in different directions. It was reaffirming each time we did it. These conversations are true to the parish. They're very wonderful, but everyone kind of, in having talks with your neighbor, this is what came out as all the strengths and all the challenges, which I think is really cool, especially being a dad.
And it validates, I think validates a lot of the categories as well.
It sure does. And then going back to, in 2022, we hope to have, this was our last question that we asked, vibrant child and youth programming, continued sermon excellence, and engaged parish with more involvement from a broader group, including newcomers. I think that speaks for itself.
And now we're on the last slide.
Yes.
So as part of what the diocese asks us to do is to come up with 4 or 5 phrases that explain the kind of person you want as a rector. So that's what this next category is.
Mm-hmm. Our next rector is an
excellent preacher who combines high intellectual content with a relatable approach to our lives.
A rector who appreciates our broad spectrum of political and theological opinion.
An energetic leader who will inspire an already enthusiastic and committed congregation to reach new heights.
A warm and welcoming people person, community builder, and fundraiser.
We got that. A leader who appreciates the challenges of administering a parish the size of St. Luke's.
And then to talk about the next steps. On October 10th, Al and myself, along with several of our committee members, go up to Meriden, Connecticut, if I say that right, and present to the bishop. We believe after that within a day or so, we'll get quick approval on all the work that we've done. And then at that point, once we get approval, that green lights us to put our transition tab live on our website that we've been working on. And that allows us to start accepting applications. So discernment ends October 10th, and recruitment starts hopefully by the 15th.
Can we just introduce the rest of the committee before we move on?
Please, yeah, we should have done that.
The discernment committee was not just the 2 of us. So
yes.
Would you guys please stand? And these are folks that help with focus groups, the analysis of the data.
True. This was them. Al and I are just the spokespeople. And then the next phase will be recruitment. So we wanted to offer Lisa and Craig an opportunity to stand up and talk a little bit about recruitment, and then we'll open it up to Q&A if that works for you guys.
We've met with the recruitment committee on a few occasions so far. There has not been a ton that we've been able to do so far because we have been awaiting this wonderful presentation, which we have to say is we appreciate you all so much for what you've done to put this together. It is amazing. And it is going to be a huge help for us and for our committee to go and seek out the person who will be our next leader in the parish.
My turn?
Your turn.
Good morning, everybody. I think we have a lot of members of the recruitment committee here today. Again, we're the spokespeople and the process organizers, but it's a group of us. So those who are on the recruitment committees, can you stand so that people know who you are and they can reach out to you? About half of us are here. It's a committee of about 12 people. So we had a wonderful dinner over the summer at Stephen's house, and to get to know each other and to understand better why we all felt called. to come to this committee that promises to be a lot of work in the months to come, and is so critically important to getting this decision right. And there's many, many reasons that everyone shared, but mutual love and commitment for this parish and understanding of the importance of the leadership of the parish in getting this decision right. And we are fortunate to have multiple people on the committee who have some professional background doing recruiting, including myself. I'm a partner in a global search firm and have been doing recruiting for 25 years. Never done one of these before, but I don't know how often that opportunity arises. So we'll be able to leverage both the depth of experience on the committee with the parish, but also in how recruitment gets done. And so a lot of the process in this case is dictated by the diocese. We don't have a lot of wiggle room in terms of how each stage of the process needs to go. So we've been waiting patiently for discernment to finish. Now our work picks up once the bishop has given his go-ahead based on the work of the discernment committee. So at that point, our work will really kick in. If you're interested in understanding where the candidates come from, there's an application process. So individuals who are interested in applying have to go through that online application process, which they can find via our website or the diocese website. So if you have individuals that you think are candidates that you like to see in the process, you have to encourage them to apply. Or if you want somebody on the recruitment committee to reach out to them, please pass on their name to myself, to Craig, to anyone you know in the recruitment committee or to the vestry, and we welcome that. I'm sure we'll get a lot of wonderful applications that apply directly, but we all know, being part of this parish, better than anyone what may work. So please feel free to send us names and ideas of people we might want to reach out to.
So, as we mentioned briefly, I guess, in the presentation, the process will begin with the discernment committee presenting to the bishop. The bishop will then look at the presentation and give the go-ahead for us to begin the process. The website will open up. You said there's going to be a new tab on the website where individuals can then apply. Once they have applied, we're going to have an open window that at this point is sort of an undetermined length. It's not going to be a very long time. It will be somewhere probably between 8 weeks and we don't really know. It kind of depends on how many applicants we get, right? How quickly they come in. It depends a lot. This is all happening also during like Thanksgiving and Christmas, which is a very busy time for clergy anyway. So I think it's important that our plan be flexible, right? Any good plan is flexible. So we know what it's not going to be. It's not going to be 2 weeks. It's not going to be 4 weeks. But we're going to keep an open mind. It's possible that we find a great candidate very early, or candidates very early, and we wouldn't want to miss out on a great candidate just because we feel like there needs to be a mandatory amount of time for the window to be open. So these things will sort of, as they happen, we'll take stock in it and we'll figure out what to do next. The process is that we get these resumes, the committee will look at them and we will narrow it down to a number of candidates that we feel are appropriate and fit these as well as other needs for the parish, and then we will present them to the vestry, right?
Yes.
The vestry will then look at those candidates and work with the bishop and the diocese to come to the final decision. In terms of timing, which is a question that we get often because of the holidays and the new year and all that sort of thing. I mean, we expect this process to last into the springtime. And then we'll see. Again, it depends on a lot of different factors. But we're very excited. We're very hopeful. This is all going to be great.
Who has the ultimate say as to the selection?
We do.
It's just that it's not the diocese.
No, we do.
Should there be opportunities to have this without giving away who the applicants are, that maybe they give a sermon and then obviously you can't all vote and say, oh, like that sermon, we don't like that sermon. Is there, even though it's up to you to make the decision, are there just a written paper, you kind of have to know the person?
Well, I would say because of privacy issues for the candidates, especially.
Right, no, but that's what I'm saying, but for the.
Yeah, so what will happen is the committee will whittle down the applicant pool by interviewing them to the applicants that we present to the vestry. Then the vestry will screen those candidates, including meeting them in person, including having the opportunity to hear them deliver a sermon. You know, unfortunately, because often these people are in other parishes, we can't present them to the entire congregation until they've been selected to protect their privacy.
But because of technology being as it is, we will most likely be able to see videoed sermons by the candidates, and that will be reviewed by both the committee and by vestry before any selection has been made.
How do we ensure that the opportunity is presented to the biggest number of people and have people actually drawn to our website?
The Discernment Committee and the people in the office have been working very hard to get the website up to the standard that the diocese is requiring to begin this process. It has been a large part of they being the diocese, has been a large part of their, what is the word I'm looking for? Their emphasis.
But they also advertise.
Look at it.
So it'll be on our website. It also goes on a national website that is an Episcopalian, the Episcopal Church of the United States goes in there. So people from all over who are looking to potentially, make a change in their lives in terms of where they're currently located would have access.
Just to let you all know, the transition office at the Episcopal Church in Connecticut also has, they're in conversation with other transition people all over the country, and so they're going to present you as well. So people will hear about it.
Yes.
Do we ever target churches and she target companies, right?
If there's the question is, would we ever target a particular rector that would be at a parish already active and sort of poach talent, I guess would be the right way to say it.
I didn't say that.
And the answer would be, if you know somebody who you think would be interested in applying at St. Luke's, direct them to the website or direct them to us. We will approach them and ask them and invite them to apply. Yes.
Do we have any idea of how many other churches of the ilk of St. Luke's we might be competing with in order to attract clergy right in this period of time?
There's no place like St. Louis.
We were told that I was in a transition consultant in July that there were about 25 or 30 searches for rectors nationally going on. I don't know if that's comparable parishes in terms of size and impact, but we're not alone in looking for one. That said, this is a pretty unique parish and it's a very desirable placement, so we'll see.
And there's a bit of a clergy shortage.
Yeah.
So, and really good leaders. It's a challenge.
Yeah.
Was there one or two more questions? I didn't see anything on, Sally, on your presentation here, specifically for seniors. Any programs designed for senior citizens, like, there was that quiet luncheon for seniors given in London. I didn't see any of that.
I don't think that in the presentation it really says anything specific about any particular group. It doesn't say anything specific about youth. It doesn't say anything specific, in terms of programs. Here's a program we would like to see. This is going to be something that will get developed when the new rector is chosen, and we will attempt to make sure that it's a focus that they have, you know, in their first 100 days.
Very much. Peter, to help with that, one thing we have been doing, so unlike years past when you've done rector searches, there was a beautiful printed booklet, a parish profile. That doesn't happen anymore. What happens is everything needs to be put up onto the website, and the website houses all that. So what we've gone through is we've done a huge audit of the website. It's not final yet, so if you go back, it would be like, oh, something might be missing. But what we're doing is updating each page. There's now a fellowship section of the website that explains parish life. Pictures of the senior luncheon are mentioned, are up there as is language. So we've tried to enhance it to kind of capture all that St. Luke's is. So that's the opportunity to go and find. This presentation was more or less the top lines from our discussions. So you're not going to see, as Craig said, specifics, but we've heard all that, and yes.
Oh, you have, I just wanted to make sure you heard that.
Yes, sir.
About seniors and things like that, because I don't find any of that sometimes. But I have another question.
Sure.
How much of the recruitment process is people involved of the church versus the bishop? Because we are a people church. This is our church.
Shall I? Interesting how much energy there is in the parish of the bishop. So we are part of a diocese, we are part of a broader Episcopal community. So the bishop is definitely part of our process, but most of that involvement is now in hearing what we have come up with from a discernment perspective. There's a number of documents that our committee has had to prepare, and they've worked painstakingly on to make sure there's the proper number of references to the Holy Spirit and the Lord Jesus Christ. So the bishop is involved at this stage to make sure we're on the right path, give us guidance there. The bishop's office helps at the outset with screening background checks, which is really important. We weed out early if we find anybody who has areas that they don't pass the background check, and then it's up to us. So the vestry will select the finalists and make that recommendation to the bishop. And I mean, Ellen might have a comment on this, but I think our expectation is that the bishop will.
So our understanding, the bishop, the diocese role for recruitment is just to screen out people that have an issue. You know,
there's two parts to the bishop's role. One is, so people will come and they will apply via the website. Okay, those resumes, if you will go directly to the diocese. They will do the background check, and then, assuming that everything is okay with each individual resume, they will come back to the recruitment committee, and then we can begin our process. At the end, when we have narrowed it down to whatever the number is, 3, 4, 5 individuals, the bishop makes calls to each of those individuals' bishops, just to say, hey, you know, Fran is going to be considered at St. Luke's. What can you tell me about Fran? And then that information will be made to us. But we can choose to do with that information what we like. If we say, okay, thanks, we understand what you're saying, and we want to carry on with this person anyway, then that's what we'll do. As you said, this is our parish,
right.
and we will.
At the very end, when we select the person, the bishop approves, but we've been told that's like a rubber stamp. He has to approve that person, but it's already gone. They've already vetted it. So for them to then say no would be.
He can say, well, I think candidate number 3 is better than candidate number 1, and we can say, we don't think so.
So he goes all through the vetting process and everything else for the candidate. And then after he passes his test, he passes it on to the recruitment. Gotcha.
Other questions?
Other questions on discernment too?
Great.
All right,
Well, enjoy it. I hope we did.
Huge round of applause for all these